Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, October 20th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all kind of day. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything goes. All you have to do is pick up the phone and join us. Looks like calls are starting to come in already, so jump in, 855-950-3835. I have a couple odds and ends. Then we'll get to your calls and questions and see what's on your mind today. So line them up. All right, an update from yesterday. We had a great guest yesterday. She's been with us before. And we had some different technical difficulties. Sometimes our live feed goes out. When you're listening to it, it'll go in and out. That's an internet issue, and most of the time there's not a lot we can do about it. So yesterday they informed me the feed was going in and out. And I thought, all right, nothing I can do, and we're recording anyway, so we'll be fine. Except I happened to look down and something went wrong with the recording. We lost about 30 minutes, and I was really bummed out about it. It was a really good 30 minutes, some really good information. And when we got off the air yesterday, and I even said, I can't believe I don't have a backup for this. When I got off the air yesterday and I had time to think, I remembered we do have a backup. We have a secondary system. Our phone system records everything. So Aaron was able to go in and edit some audio out of the phone system and put it into the show. Show's exactly like it should be. You won't even notice anything's been edited. So the whole show is there. If you want to go check that out, our guest was an evolutionary biologist. So we were talking about hunter-gatherers and diet, and she had a really interesting take. If you weren't listening, at the very beginning of the show, she started talking about hunter-gatherers' diet, and then she did start talking about grains and lots of fruit and vegetables and honey. And I stopped her and I said, this is one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show. We wanted to talk about this. Was that the hunter-gatherer diet? Was it more carnivore? And I explained to her that either way, we were sticking to paleo, keto, carnivore type diets, no grains, very, very little sugar and fruit. She actually agreed. And her point was really interesting coming from an evolutionary biologist. She said a healthy human being should be able to eat a wide variety of foods, even high-carb diets. There were civilizations with high-carb diets, and they were healthy. But we've damaged our metabolism so much, she agreed, that if you can't handle carbohydrates, then you just can't handle carbohydrates. Stop eating them. So it was an interesting take. There were a couple other really interesting topics we talked about in there. So it's on the app. Check it out. That's all I have on the health side right now. I just wanted to give you an update on that. I have something else I'm going to talk about here, but I'm going to put a little disclaimer in this first. I said many times I really don't spend much time on Facebook anymore. I really don't post or respond. Don't send me messages on Facebook. The odds of you getting a response from me are slim to none. I'll just say they're none. We do monitor our Facebook pages, and there are people who will respond to questions, just not me. But I still scroll Facebook because it's a window into what people are thinking and doing. And you can really kind of see what's going on. I watch many, many industry groups, broker groups, shipper groups, owner-operators, drivers. And occasionally, I'll come across something I want to talk about, but I want to be clear. I never do this to embarrass anybody. And it's why I don't use names, so nobody else knows who I'm talking about, but the person who posted it does. They'll recognize what I'm talking about. I don't use names. I don't do it to embarrass anybody. It's just, and this is an example today. Actually, I think there are two good lessons in here in just a couple of sentences That's why I wanted to highlight this. But if you recognize this as your post, I'm not doing this to embarrass you at all. Actually, what I want to talk about is the difference between the two lessons are one, the difference between stupidity and ignorance. They're very, very different, worlds apart, and this push towards electric vehicles. Two crazy, totally different topics that I got from two sentences. So the post was basically, the question in the post was something along the lines of, do you think the Tesla truck will work, or will it be good? Something along those lines. There was lots of answers, most of them pretty much the norm, what you normally hear. This one was different. Now, I said there's a lesson, the difference between ignorance and stupidity. We are all ignorant. We are all massively ignorant, but we're not stupid. Most people are not stupid. Some people are. Most people aren't. They're ignorant. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. I'm ignorant of a lot of things. Ignorant just means you don't know something. Well, there are lots of things you can't know until you either read them, somebody teaches it to you, you're exposed to it. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant. It's impossible not to be ignorant. But I do try hard not to be ignorant about something that's important in my life. I don't want to be ignorant about health. It's too important. I don't want to be ignorant about money. It's too important. I don't want to be ignorant about relationships. I want to learn about those things so I can be better at them. If you're going to be in business, you shouldn't be ignorant about business. So it's very possible the person that made this comment isn't in business. They're not an owner-operator. If they are, I will make the statement that you're ignorant of business and you should probably try to fix that. But if you're a company driver, who cares if you know about business? If you're not in business, you don't need to know about it. So, with all that lead up, here's the couple of sentences. Now remember, this was about the Tesla truck, whether or not it's going to work. The answer was, you could make a killing locally. You have no cost of goods sold. Everything you make is pure profit besides tires and some routine maintenance. I don't even know where to start. First off, they must have a little bit of information about business. They actually used the term cost of goods sold. That's a very specific accounting term. We don't use it in trucking. So if you just heard me say that and you're in trucking, you're like, what? What? Cost of goods sold? What's that? Ignore it. If you're in trucking, we don't use this. In my business, I have to use this. Cost of goods sold. If I buy an X3 bar to put in our store and then sell it to you, I have a cost of goods sold. I had to pay for that X3 bar first. Then I can put it in my store. Then I can sell it to you, hopefully at a profit. But when we account for goods sold, it's a two-step process. In trucking, it's really a one-step process to get to profit. In trucking, you start with the money you brought in, you subtract your expenses, and you get profit. When you inventory things, goods, when you're selling goods, trucking is a service. Service businesses, the accounting is different than a retail business where you sell goods. So in that accounting, you take your gross revenue, you first subtract your cost of goods sold. Then in the next step of the process, we go down and we start deducting expenses that don't have anything to do with those cost of goods sold, not directly. Like there I would, the payment on our building, that would be just a regular expense. Our utilities, a regular expense. Our labor, our payroll, those are all regular expenses on a profit and loss. Cost of goods sold is usually the first section of a profit and loss. So I just wanted to straighten that out. You have no cost of goods sold on an electric truck. You don't have cost of goods sold, period. So that was just a confusing statement in there. Now let's get to the real point of it. Let's just say instead of saying you have no cost of goods sold, what he's really trying to say, I think, is you have no expenses. Everything you make is pure profit besides tires and some routine maintenance. Well, there's two problems here. We have no idea what routine maintenance on an electric truck is going to be yet. Could be really expensive in the beginning. We don't know. As simple as electric vehicles are, you look at the maintenance cost of a Tesla, it's not really that different from a gas car. There are other expenses. They have to be maintained. It's just different stuff. Eventually, I do believe that maintenance costs on electric vehicles will be lower. I doubt we're going to be there right away. That's a kind of a minor point. Routine maintenance is a fairly big expense on vehicles, about 14 cents a mile. That's a little bit of a chunk, but here's the point about how they're pushing these electric vehicles. This person is assuming that electricity doesn't cost anything. That's because of how the government is pushing this. You hear, Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, say, well, who cares about gas prices? Just go buy an electric car. That's how and never, ever have I heard anybody in the government, certainly not the Biden administration, talk about the cost of putting electricity into that car. They never talk about it. I have a feeling that there are times, right now it'd be hard to say everything is up so much, but I would venture to say there are going to be times where putting electricity into a vehicle might cost more than putting gas or diesel into a vehicle. Nobody's talking about this. What they do say is, the criticism is usually, they want us to go out and buy a $40,000 vehicle, which is really ignorant. There are a lot of people who never want to spend $40,000 on a vehicle. But they don't talk about the cost. They make that sound like, well, if gas prices are hurting you, go buy an electric car. Well, why don't you mention the cost of electric? This is not free. Tesla had some deals here and there where if you bought certain models of their cars on certain deals, you got free electricity for a while. Look, nothing's free. You were paying for it. It was just a package deal. That's all it is. We are not ever going to get free energy, ever. Energy will be the number one cost in trucking for a very long time. I can't believe that the electric truck is going, if I had to predict right now, and I've done a little bit of, NACFE has some numbers on this, the cost of energy will always be the number one cost in truck in the near future. I shouldn't say always. In the near future, the next decade. Maybe after that we'll come up with something better. I'm sure we will. But in the beginning, it could be the opposite. It will be the opposite, not could be. Remember, everything is based on supply and demand. When we put more demand on electric, the price is going to go up. The other thing nobody's talking about yet, they will be soon, is what about road tax and fuel tax? Well, we're going to have to take the fuel tax and probably convert it to a pure road tax the way Oregon does for electric vehicles. Or they're going to have to put an electric tax on. It's going to happen. The government is not going to let you drive these vehicles around on the roads not paying any kind of road taxes. So the truck's one thing, and we should understand what this truck is really going to cost. But the bigger picture is how the government is presenting these electric vehicles. And we have people running around thinking, doesn't cost anything. That's insane. All right. Let's I had some other things. Calls are starting to pile up, so we will get to them. Let's get started today in Florida. Matt, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
I got a whole list of things today, but I did notice I looked up, and I never remember the full website, but it's ifta.org, or there's some other letters in there. I don't remember what all it stands for, but it gives you all the breakdown of every fuel. Pennsylvania is the only one so far has 1 cent per kilowatt electric.
Okay, so there's a state that's going to charge it by kilowatt.
Yep.
You know,
and then I would assume long term we're going to end up with a mileage tax.
I was just going to say, why would they
what type of fuel doesn't matter?
Right. Why would they complicate this? Now that we know the future of trucking is multiple fuels, we know that in the next decade we will be buying diesel to run trucks, we will be buying hydrogen to run trucks, and we will be buying electric to run trucks. The government's going to confuse the hell out of it all by putting 3 different taxes on them instead of just saying, look, get rid of those energy taxes. Let's just do a mileage tax because this is to pay for the roads anyway.
Nope.
But of course the government will complicate it. They always do.
Yeah, why do things simple?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just like the fair tax, you know? Let's do one tax that covers everything instead of whatever we're at these days, 80-some thousand pages of tax code.
Exactly. I know.
But...
yeah, but
real quick one.
What do you think about this idea that there are people? And again, they're not stupid people. They're not. They're ignorant. And there's, like I said, nothing wrong with being ignorant. Lots of us are about a lot of things. But there does seem to be this attitude that, well, just go buy the electric car and then you won't have to worry about gas prices. That is such an ignorant statement.
Well,
and it's our government that's making those kind of statements. Our government's ignorant. Actually, our government's corrupt. They know better. They're not ignorant. They know better.
Yep. Yeah, and for the post and the business and the truck side of it, the cost of a truck. You have cost of goods. You got to buy a truck first.
You're right.
Whether it's diesel or electric really doesn't matter. You still have a cost, but
yeah. Now, on the accounting side, we don't count that as cost of goods sold because we're not going to buy the truck and resell it. If we did, then if that was our business, then that would be a cost of goods sold. Actually, well, probably not with vehicles. Then it gets even more complicated. But you're right. I had that on my notes, but I forgot to mention it. Not only are you going to be paying for energy, we could even call it fuel. You're going to be paying for fuel of some sort, energy of some sort. You have the cost of that truck, which is huge. I mean, when they first announced it before all this crazy inflation, it was pretty comparable to the cost of a new diesel truck. They had one model they claimed they were going to be able to sell at $150,000. It had a lower range. And then they had the one they claimed had a better range. And they were going to sell it for $180,000. I have to believe when Tesla starts selling trucks in December, they're going to be $200,000 plus. Just because of inflation.
Yeah, because those numbers were also before inflation. Yeah.
Right. So they're going to be $200,000 plus. So now you have a $200,000 truck. You have fuel costs that we don't know what they are. How easy is it for us to know what the diesel fuel cost is? It's easy. Drive down the street, go online. It's everywhere. Everybody knows what diesel costs. Somebody call me and tell me what electric costs right now to charge a vehicle. I have no idea.
Well, because first, electric prices around the country are just as volatile as diesel. I mean, it can be wildly different from one area of the country to the next.
Right.
And then, to actually have a charging station and what their costs are, I have no idea.
Right. And now to make the comparison, we're going to have to convert our raw cost to cost per mile. It's the only way to be able to compare diesel against electric. You can't just say, oh, well, I filled up my diesel truck and it cost me $800, and I filled up my electric truck and it only cost me $500. Look, it's cheaper. Well, no. How far are you going to be able to go on that?
Yep.
So we have to convert them
cost
both
per
to
mile.
cost per mile so we can make the comparison.
Because the best example of that is your propane test.
Exactly. Right.
Your diesel cost went down.
Right.
But the cost of propane was more than what you saved in diesel.
So when we did the math, my cost per mile when I was running propane went up. My cost per mile for energy went up by adding propane. It didn't go down, it went up.
But your diesel cost went down.
Exactly.
That's all we got to look at, right?
Right. And I could have, I bet I could have posted, just ignored the propane cost and posted, oh, look, I got a half mile per gallon better, and people would have been all over it.
No. So, move along. A real quick one here first, because I just opened kombucha. Is there a difference between glass and aluminum cans, do you think, for kombucha? I'm starting to see more aluminum cans, and it is more convenient in a truck than carrying glass bottles.
I haven't thought about any kind of a difference. I actually now the brand, I was drinking Kavita a lot, but there's two problems for me with Kavita. The store that's closest to me only carries a couple of the flavors, and they only usually have a couple of bottles of each one. I never have enough of what I want, so I have to go to a store that's 20 minutes away. Not that that's a big deal, but I'd rather not. And I drink a lot of kombucha every day, and I don't like to go to the store a lot. It's really inconvenient to try to buy like 30 bottles at a time, individual bottles. They don't even come in carriers at all. So I found another brand that I really like. It's actually a little lower in sugar. Love their flavors, and it comes in 4-pack cans. So you just grab, several 4-packs. Much more convenient, even at home, and certainly I would say in the truck. I don't know if there's enough of it. I'm not even going to go look. On this one, I don't want to know.
Oh, yeah.
I just
assuming it's going to be an opinion more than
probably
a fact.
Exactly. So I'm not even going to go look. I'm fine with drinking my kombucha out of cans.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, my assumption would be glass is probably. There is a superior reason to use glass, but I don't know that it's something you could measure. Yeah.
The health reason behind glass, and we converted almost everything in our kitchen to glass instead of plastic. Plastic became so prevalent in the kitchen, and we stopped that. I got rid of glass and I got rid of aluminum. We don't use aluminum foil, or if I do, I put parchment in between the food and the aluminum. Glass is completely neutral when it comes to food and health, and glass doesn't leach anything out, as long as it's not some stupid leaded glass or something. Just, straight glass, the way we use in bottles in the kitchen, is neutral. So we do tend to lean towards glass, but in this case, the convenience factor for me is enough. I don't think there's enough difference here to even worry about. Probably not enough proof to know for sure anyway.
And then to solve your inventory issue with certain flavors and brands, I just put in an order for Azure. They sell all kinds of kombucha, and buy it by the case is the cheapest way.
I need to try some of theirs. I just haven't taken the time to try them and find. That is a really good, that would be the easiest way for me. I wouldn't have to mess with it at all. So I probably should just start sampling some of theirs until I find one I like.
That's what I've done. I just ordered a case of one, and next month I'll get a different one and just figure out which one I like the best.
There you go.
So, kind of going over a couple of Monday's calls. Brian's called a couple of times with the retirement stuff.
Yeah.
And just to give an update of what I was talking about way back in the spring and maxing out an individual 401k, which I realize this does not apply to very many people because we're talking some pretty large numbers. It is true.
Let me just tell people how big sometimes. When I was, talking a lot more about financial planning and owner operators would call, and we haven't done a lot of that in the past. I like when we do. I hope we get back to it. But it wasn't unusual for me to find an owner operator who is only profiting $45,000 or $50,000 a year. The maximum contribution could be more than they made that year. Now, it wouldn't be for them, but the numbers we're talking about that are possible for owner operators are north of that sometimes.
Yeah, and I didn't go back and look up the exact number, but it's either 61 or 62,000 for 2022. The good news about inflation, all numbers are going up for 2023.
Yeah.
Even your traditional IRAs, the contribution limits are jumping pretty significantly.
Two other things that went up because of inflation that will help a little bit, tax-wise. They raised the standard deduction, which almost everybody uses now after Trump's tax law change, and they adjust the tax brackets down. So the tax brackets, I think the first tax bracket now might be like 7% or something. That's all because of inflation. Those are like automatic limits that are just in place, and as inflation goes up, they kick in.
No. So, Paul just sent me a message here. The advantage to a glass bottle is if you only drink half, you can put the cap back on versus an aluminum can.
Well, here he's right, but here's my kombucha habit. I drink probably one can a day. Well, I used to drink one bottle. Maybe I do a can and a half a day. But honestly, I just open it. I take a couple sips. I stick it in the refrigerator, and throughout the day, I just sip on it. I don't ever really sit down and drink a whole can of kombucha.
No.
And it's just fine. If it's in there too long, it'll start to go a little flat. But yeah, probably in the truck, though, you really wouldn't want an open container around.
No. So back to retirement. And that number, I've always meant to go look this up. Even if you had a corporate job, whatever, I believe those numbers are your limits on retirement investing.
They are. Yes.
I don't think there's a way. I mean, even a very high income earner, say an executive at Apple, they make crazy amounts of money, and I think that retirement limit is the limit.
That is the limit. It wouldn't matter if that executive makes $2 million a year. They still can only put in the same limit that you and I can put in. Yeah, that doesn't have any. The only thing that has anything to do with income is it is a percentage of your income up to that limit. But that's the only thing that has anything to do with income. Once you hit that limit, you're just done.
Yeah. So Brian had mentioned the employer contribution. That is the one that has the percentage limit.
Yeah.
The employer can put in 25% of your W-2 wage. So if you're an S-Corp, that you're using a W-2 wage. If you're self-employed sole proprietor, your tax, then you're using your self-employment tax, 25% of that number.
Yeah.
That's what you can put in, the business can put in.
Your self-employment income. Your self-employment income.
Yep.
Yeah, you said self-employment tax.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Correct.
It's you can put in 25% of your self-employment income.
Yep. That I've never run the numbers, but my accountant said that is your best tax situation to max that side out first.
Right.
And that has to go in to traditional because that's basically going in tax-free. The business is getting it as a write-off. It's not coming out of your payroll, so there's no taxes withheld. So that is a traditional contribution, no option.
Correct.
The option is at the end of the year, you can
Convert it.
do the conversion to a Roth and pay the tax.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So you can get it into a Roth. That's the what we call the backdoor Roth option. You put it in as traditional and then do a conversion later. The employee and what you can have withheld out of your check, and that can go in as a Roth if you have that option on your account. The limit for 2022 is $20,500. And then these numbers added together cannot exceed that 61 or 62, I don't remember.
The total limit, right. And over the years, and right now today, if you wouldn't have brought these numbers, I wouldn't know them because they change every year, and I never have to deal with them. I never had any clients who ever asked me what the maximum was. Nobody ever got close to contributing to the maximum, so I didn't even know what it was most years. I mean, I might see it here and there, but I don't know it most of the time.
So, I have worked my life situation into, completely debt-free, and I am trying to max out retirement. But with my payroll, and I did up it now, I'm going to go all the way up to $70,000 a year for salary.
Okay.
Just because my revenue is so high, and the miles I run, and I don't think
that's the bigger
industry
reason.
Standard.
And I want to touch on that because this is one of those points where if you get 10 accountants and 10 IRS agents in the room, you've got 20 people, you're going to end up with 22 opinions somehow on how this all works. I mean, nobody agrees with this or on this. It's the idea of if you own an S-Corp and you work in that S-Corp, you have to pay yourself a salary and it has to be taxed like a salary. That's the rule. Now, how much of a salary? Well, as usual, the IRS has very, very vague wording on this. You have to take a reasonable salary based on how much work you do for the company. There's a lot of room for interpretation there. One of the mistakes I see accountants make, though, is, and you're not doing this. I understand what you're doing. Even though you mentioned your revenue, you're really basing this more on miles and other things and time, which is the right way to do it. I had somebody call the other day, and their accountant said, "Oh no, because of all that revenue, you have to take more." No, that's wrong. The IRS is talking about your salary for the work you do. Well, the best example of this was when I still had my FedEx contract, and I profited about $100,000 a year off of that contract, and I didn't even work an hour a week. I really didn't. There were weeks I didn't work at all. Lisa would do payroll. That took her about 10 minutes. Sometimes there were months I didn't talk to anybody over there. So I just took a nominal salary of $10,000 a year. The profit has nothing to do with anything.
And you this is not could have got away with less.
Exactly. I think I could have gotten away with less. Sometimes, though, you don't push things too far just because you don't want to trigger an audit. $10,000, I threw some money in there. I'll pay a little tax on $10,000. No big deal. But I had, I've talked to many accountants that would have been, "Oh no, you better be taking $40,000 or $50,000 a year if you have $100,000 in profit." That has nothing to do with anything. I could have $1 million in profit and take a $10,000 salary, and it would be correct.
No. So my employer side, and this is where we look at the stock market, I kind of screwed myself this year when we talk about market timing. At the beginning of the year, I was $1,000 a week, and I was all doing most of it under the employer contribution side, because I thought I could use some different numbers, but you can't use the K1. That was the one I was hung up on, trying to use for that 25% number.
Right.
So I've got, I think, about $18,000 in under the employer side.
Okay.
And, I put all that in at the beginning of the year when the market was really high, and the market's gone down since.
What's the market doing today? I actually need to move a little bit of money around, and
I haven't.
Believe it
today,
or not, I'm trying to market time it just a little bit. I mean, I'm talking a couple days here. The money's going to come out no matter what, so I might as well at least try to hit a high day when I do it. The last couple of days have been really good. I'm going to go look right now and see what's going on with it. Go ahead with what you were saying. Back up again today.
About 19.
Yeah, we're up.
Well, it's election season.
I know we're.
That makes it even more volatile sometimes.
It is. We're at 30,700 right now.
Huh.
Yeah, I think I'll probably. I don't think I'm going to push it any further. I think I'll move that money today.
Yeah. So I quit the employer side, and then I just calculated out through the end of the year for monthly contributions to max out the employee side, the 20,500, and then I actually had to go open an IRA because I didn't have any anymore. I'd rolled them all into the 401k. So both under mine and my wife, there's another $6,000 each. So I'll be at my $50,000 number I wanted to put into retirement. It just had to go in 4 different ways to get there.
Yeah. And here's another area where, I know a lot of people are listening to us right now, and some of them probably turned off the radio. They're lost. This is complicated stuff. There's no way to really simplify it. The IRS and the government have made a mess of retirement in this country. If you're self-employed, it's an absolute nightmare to try to figure all this stuff out and actually maximize it. And here's another crazy thing. I can't have that account you have.
Yep, because you have employees.
Yep, can't do it. I'm not allowed to have an individual 401k because I have employees. What the hell does that have to do with anything? I'm an individual. Why can't I have my own account?
Yeah, and I'm assuming I don't know enough about the SEP, the self-employment. What does that stand for?
Self-employed pension plan.
Same rules.
Yeah, similar, but again,
that has the same limit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar, but it gets a little more complicated, and because I have a business, and if I wanted to do 401k, I have to do it through the business, and I have to include all the employees.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
I think that covers retirement. The next interesting thing was Wojtek's call. Talking about Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did, you mentioned Berkshire Hathaway, and I just was walking by Andy's office as he said that, so I didn't really catch the show. Mondays I'm at home, and I went off to do my own thing, but you seen the screenshot, exactly what I was thinking. The $5,000 change in a couple hours the market was open Monday morning.
I know.
On Berkshire Hathaway. It just blew my mind.
I know. On one stock changing that. Now, here's the thing. If you had that just one share of stock and that's all you're watching, it can be so volatile. To me, looking at my whole portfolio, it might move $5,000. In a day when the market's volatile, but I don't want to own one stock that can move that much.
Yeah. And, I mean, that probably wasn't even out of line.
Oh, no, it's not.
At a $410,000 value per share.
1%.
Well, you had $410,000 in the S&P. To move $5,000, that's not a big move.
Yeah,
and top dollar is so big, yeah.
Yeah, and in a time like now, we're moving 1% and 2% up and down all the time.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
So,
I think we had a day
yeah,
recently where the S&P moved like 4%, which is huge. 4% of 400,000. You're talking about a lot of money to disappear or gain in a day. If you gain it, it's awesome. If it disappears, it sucks.
Yeah. So Robert Kiyosaki, Mike Rowe had him on here, probably 2 months ago already now.
I should go watch that.
Mike Rowe even put out a disclaimer in his he does like a preamble, after he recorded it, he comes on and he does a pre thing where he sets up the interview. And in his pre, he says, I'm having him on even though I disagree with most of his things he does.
I think I would have to say that if I had him on too. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's got like $1 billion in debt. But, I mean, he owns several $1 billion worth of real estate, so, I mean, it works. But he, promotes the zero-down real estate investing and all that and the whole gold thing. But the reason it was interesting because I'm also listening to one of his newer books called Fake, in 2019. And it's about a lot of fake stuff in our society. I completely agree with everything you said about the guy because it's a lot of things about him just rub me the wrong way. But then there's a lot of things about that he says I completely agree with.
Well, of course.
And so
no doubt.
He even talks about fake teachers, and he loves education, but we don't have real teachers in our country anymore. They're not teaching us anything.
No, they're not.
They're just pushing people through to a test. Yeah.
That's it. Right.
So that part, I completely agree with them. Yeah. Education is great.
I've been saying
the education system is worthless.
Yeah. I've been saying exactly what he just said for years. We don't teach kids how to learn. They don't learn. We teach them how to memorize things to pass a test.
Yeah. And this book, Fake, I don't know that I'm even going to recommend it to anybody.
Is he talking about things like
going for me?
Olive oil and honey and that kind of stuff?
No, it's fake money, fake teachers, fake government.
Okay.
Fake news. He's
it.
buddy with Trump. Him and Trump actually wrote a book together, I think.
Yeah, I could skip that one.
It's a play on, Trump saying fake news.
Honestly, and I've said this many, many times, as much as I kind of really liked him as a president, not as a president, I liked his policies as a president. I don't like Trump, just like I don't like Kiyosaki. They both rub me the wrong way. But I'd take him as a president again, based on what we've had so far.
Yep.
Bring him back. Yes, I miss him as a president. I just don't like him as a person.
Yep.
And that's okay. I don't have to like him as a person. If he makes the country better, I'm okay with that.
Yep. So in this book, he talks about his silver and gold thing. And in his explanation, I agree with his reasons why he does it. And he does state he does not invest in gold and silver as an investment.
He says that in his book.
Side of it when the world comes to an end.
He says that.
But not in his commercial.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So let's talk about a real fake then. You write a book and say, I don't buy precious metals as an investment. I buy them for the apocalypse.
Yep.
And then you go on TV over and over and over and tell people to invest in precious metals. What a fake. He should have his picture on the cover of that book. And the title should be, I'm the Fake. That's insane. That's outrageous.
So,
really? I can't believe he wrote a book like that and he has that commercial.
Yeah, I've never seen the commercials.
Here's my favorite line.
Watch any TV.
I love silver because it's cheap. That blew the top of my head off. Yeah, penny stocks are too. Do you want to start pushing penny stocks on people? Oh,
I can tell you my result with that.
now I really don't like the guy.
You know, he's got an interesting background. You know, like the first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which came out in the 90s.
I loved the concept of the book. I really did. I just immediately had a problem with the way he gave financial advice.
You know, and this is what I love about the way Dave Ramsey's more recent experiment. You know, he interviewed, he throws out, I'm not going to remember it, 11,700 and some millionaires.
Wow.
You know, and they do a whole questionnaire, so they got statistics. And then when people call, for one example, you know, I'll come into some money or no, not come into some money, just in their paycheck, instead of paying extra on their house, shouldn't they be investing more into retirement, more this instead of, because the baby steps are 15% into retirement. Anything above that, pay off the house.
Okay.
Pay down the house. Mathematically, that's probably not correct. You could run the numbers, and investing will come out ahead in the long run.
You know, you could make a general statement that Dave Ramsey's advice almost across the board doesn't follow math. You can prove almost every one of his, almost every piece of advice he gives. If you wanted to, you could put it on paper and say, no, you're wrong. It would be better to do this. But I agree with his advice because people aren't computers. They're not calculators. They have a brain and they have emotions.
The statistics he's come up with, the millionaires he's interviewed, and I don't know the exact number, but it's 73 or high 70-some% millionaires say a big portion of their success in building money was paying off their house.
Yep.
So even though mathematically it works, would you rather work a plan that there's a 20% success rate or a 70% success rate?
Exactly. Yeah. You can look at the math and say, okay, there's the math, but let's look at results in the real world. I do the same thing on health.
Yep.
I say all the time, look, you can argue all day about health. Everybody has health is even worse because at least with math, it's provable over and over and over. Almost nothing is provable in health, and yet people still act like it is. And what I say is, I don't care what all those studies say. I read them every single day. I know what they say. I don't really care what they say. What I care about is what kind of results do we get in the real world?
Yep. And that's, again, back to Robert Kiyosaki and the whole your house is a liability, not an asset. When he explains it, I agree with him.
Okay, I kind of figured maybe there's...
Most people, their house is a liability because they owe so much on it. If you lose your job, it's not an asset, it's a problem. So
that's
when you have your house paid down enough, or if you own it free and clear, it's clearly an asset.
Exactly.
The mortgage side of it,
So he's saying is because you've been financially irresponsible, I can't give you the good advice that I should give you. Right?
Yep.
So instead of doing that, I absolutely love Dave Ramsey's approach. Instead, let's teach people how not to be financially irresponsible.
No. Because, that the whole zero down real estate, Dave talks about that all the time. And, he went bankrupt doing it.
That was his first big failure, right?
He's been successful at doing it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And when he went bankrupt in real estate, wasn't he an MBA?
Yeah, I don't remember
Or he had a finance
what
degree or
he
something.
went to college for.
I think it might have been a
Yeah,
finance
I'm not
degree.
sure if he had a degree in finance. I don't
Business, maybe.
remember. But yeah,
Yeah.
he at one point, in the mid 80s, I think he said he owned $4 million worth of real estate, and he only owed $3 million on it. So he was a millionaire
Right.
until everything changed.
Right.
Interest rates skyrocketed, and back then it was,
So
they were short-term loans. They were, renewed every few years and couldn't renew them.
yeah. Well,
Went bankrupt. Had
that's
to foreclose.
yeah. When you do this, zero down real estate kind of stuff, you're not talking about traditional 30-year mortgages. That's not how that works.
Nope.
You've got all kinds of short-term mortgages. You've got other kinds of creative financing in there, and it gets pretty damn complicated. You better know what you're doing, and most people don't. There's a case where so many people who go to invest in real estate are ignorant of how real estate works, and they fail at it. You can, all these guys running around saying, I became a gazillionaire on zero down real estate, didn't spend a penny of my own money. It happens, but you better be damn good at it.
Well, yeah, I don't know the percentage on that, but I would say the success rate on that is probably 1%.
It's really low.
Dave says that in his story. He went to a seminar to learn it, and the guy who gave the seminar filed bankruptcy.
I have a story about this. I was in the Army at the time, so 19 or 20 or whatever I was, 21 maybe, and I went to probably the same seminar Dave Ramsey went to. It was about the same time. It was in the 80s. Those things were huge back then. And I borrowed now I was in the Army, and I think I was making, I know when I first went in the Army, I remember the exact amount, $693 a month. That's what you got paid as an E1 in the 80s. $693 a month. So maybe after a year or two in there, I might have been making $800 or $900. I don't think I ever made $1,000 a month when I was in. So here I am making $10,000 a year max. I borrowed $4,000 to go to that seminar. Stupidest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those numbers sound right, because I remember win books, and then they, so you pick a year, like a year somebody was born, and
Yeah.
I bought one for my grandma on her birthday years ago, but it gives the statistics of average cost of a new home, average household income, back in that year, and
Yeah.
if I remember, the late 70s, early 80s, $12,000 to $18,000 a year was average income.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. And in the military,
amazing
don't
how
get paid much.
Things have inflated in my lifetime. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. My first year as an owner operator. Now it was local, but my first year as an owner operator, 86, I grossed like $48,000. That was it. That was gross.
And when I bought my first truck in '98, and the people, the kind of a partnership with the guy, me and him traded jobs. The guy I bought the truck from, he took over my job running a bulldozer and swing driver at a company, and I went to driving full time. And he says, as long as you gross $100,000 a year, you won't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
You look at my net now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, what a difference, huh?
Yeah.
And honestly, everything's the same, just the numbers are bigger. They're just all bigger. I mean, that's all that's changed.
Yeah. So, well, I'm assuming calls are piling up, so
They
I'll
are.
let you move along.
Good stuff, though. Thanks for the call. Let's head off to Pennsylvania. We do have some lines open. It's a free for all today. Oh, let me check on Rolling Toe real quick and see what the status is. Rolling Toe is confirmed for 10 a.m. today. Okay, so we've got another hour. I'll call it 45 minutes maybe. Plenty of time for questions. Line them up. We'll take them. We're going to go to Pennsylvania this time. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
Real quick, I'm hoping Joel's listening. Maybe he can report tomorrow. I'm running the Hot Shot Secret Extreme Diesel treatment for the first time, and I'm kind of amazed. This thing is the extreme treatment has destroyed my coal rolling ability. When I shift,
does this have the cetane?
Go ahead.
This the cetane booster?
What was that?
Does this have cetane in it? Is this the additive that increases cetane?
Yeah, so he runs that everyday treatment all the time, and I've been running that as well. But then there's an extreme treatment that's supposed to really, I guess, like clean up the injectors and stuff, but they both have cetane in them.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. It's crazy, if I progressive shift it and like mash on it, normally I can roll some coal, but nothing.
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they both products claim a 7-point cetane boost, and that kind of brings me to my question for him is because the everyday treatment you can run, there's a standard dose and there's a performance dose, and I've always wondered which he runs. I'm assuming to get the 7 points you would have to be on the performance dose.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious, and it comes back to that whole, what Joel mentions, Volvo wants, I'm not running a Volvo, but Volvo wants 47 cetane, I think he said, and, the pump only guarantees 40. So if you add 7,
there's the 7
you're
points.
In good shape.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
If he is listening, he'll text me. He hasn't yet, but usually when he hears a question like this, he'll text me and let me know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to finally hear Matt chime in on all my calls. He's and he gave me the answer to kind of, or one of the answer, and probably 5 more questions for kind of my next step. But oh my God, what a nightmare! I had it in my head like, oh, I'm going to open this individual 401k and roll over my 2 old 401ks into it, and I'll have everything in this nice big bucket.
Right.
And in reality, and I'm not bashing Vanguard, but you know how it is. They're a huge company. In the process of this, I've generated 3 different Vanguard logins.
Here's the problem. I don't think there really are any small mutual fund companies. They're all giants, and they're all like this. And a lot of this isn't even their fault. They don't want to run their business like this. That's probably one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. It's the government that makes a mess of all this stuff. What you just said, that you'd love to have all your money in one bucket, I've been trying to do that for years. It's impossible in retirement. So now you end up with money scattered all over the place. It's harder to keep your portfolio balanced. It's hard to keep everything in your head. It makes me crazy. Here's one of the things we don't talk about with the fair tax, and here's one of the reasons I don't. What percentage of Americans really have a retirement account that they contribute to and pay attention to? It's not many. So why would I talk about it?
Right.
But here's a huge advantage to the fair tax. All this crap goes away. If you want a retirement account, put it in your backyard. That's fine. Put it in the bank. Buy gold. Invest in the market. Doesn't matter. You wouldn't have to deal with any of these rules of a retirement account because what point would there be to them anymore? There would be no point. We only do them because we want to get a tax break. And the government makes us jump through 37 hoops to get it. If the fair tax comes along, you don't need a tax break anymore. You're not paying any income tax. Wouldn't that be nice to just have all that crap disappear and you just do whatever you want with your money for retirement?
Yeah.
Yeah, no limits
I
on how much you could invest. You can invest whatever you want. Who
Right.
cares? There are no retirement accounts. There's no rules. There's no limits. All that stuff goes away.
Right. I want to come back to retirement, but before I forget, I think I saw something on Facebook. Did the FMCSA announce a proposed rulemaking on speed limiters? Is there any news on that? It sounded like there was.
There's some weird stuff going on in the FMCSA right now. They are proposing some new rules. I saw a couple things, and I you know me in compliance. I'll look at the headline, and that's about as far as I'm going.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So I sat down. I finally got that account open. So now I'm like, okay, I can start doing some rollovers. And I called and I talked to somebody helpful in the individual 401k department, and I told him what I'm trying to do, and he's like, "Oh no, you don't want to roll that into your individual 401k. You want to open an IRA and a Roth IRA, and because it'll be less clunky to roll over."
I don't care about the rollover. Once it's done, it's done. You want me to deal with clunky for the rest of my life. Having multiple retirement accounts is clunky.
Well, I listened to him, and there was another thing. He said, it doesn't matter if I have $1 million in that individual 401k, that won't count towards the $50,000 threshold to waive the fees on the funds. He said, I need to get $50,000 into the IRA account aggregate, and then he told me to max them out and then worry about my individual 401k. And then I can't even figure this out. My one account, I mean, it's just crazy. I guess I got it figured out, but it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
My one account is with a census, which Vanguard says they have nothing to do with the census, but my third Vanguard account, that's, I guess, actually going to be my personal investment account, I logged in, and my old 401k with the census is in that account. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't even need to roll it over, I guess, or I talked to some other lady in another department. She's like, oh yeah, no, you can do an internal rollover. And then, she transferred me to the department for that. And they're like, oh no, you can't. No, we have to mail you a check. We don't have anything to do with the census. I'm like, but I'm looking at the money in my Vanguard account.
So, I spent a lot of money and 3 years of my life to become a certified financial planner. One of the more difficult things I've done. It was not easy. The test is like 15 hours long, and most years less than 45% of the people who take it pass it. It was a pretty brutal 3 years, and I spent a lot of money to get it, and I actually worked as a financial planner for less than a year, and this is exactly why. And you know what made it even far more complicated for me? Because I only did that. I didn't want to just leave trucking and go become a financial planner. I wanted to financial plan for truck drivers. I was already doing their taxes and helping them out. So what I failed to realize at the time was all of my clients live in a lot of different states. Now I have to go license in every one of those states. I can't sell an investment to somebody unless I'm licensed in the state they live in. So I had fees in every state. I had this kind of government complication crap in every state. And on top of that, I now have to deal with trying to walk people through what you're trying to do yourself. That's probably why I don't have any hair. And I almost went broke because I was paying more fees in most states than I was making back from, my clients because they were investing $100 a month most of the time, which was fine. That's what I wanted them to do, just get started. But I couldn't make any money doing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll get there. So I guess fair warning to everybody.
Let me.
You should do it.
Let me give somebody some advice. And if you've heard people call about this, this is the advice I give them. Don't go to the mutual fund company's website and try to do this yourself. Call them and say, I have it. And most of the time, this question comes up when somebody leaves a company, they had a 401k, they don't know what to do with it. And I'll say, call them first. Tell them I have this account. You're even going to give them the account number. Let them do it. It's just so much easier that way.
Yeah. Oh, there was one thing I did forget. You just reminded me. The guy that was the first guy I mentioned that told me to open up 2 more accounts. He said if I ever close down my company, which it kind of makes sense when you think about it, but you think, whenever you leave a job that as an employee, you can just let that 401k forever if you want. I mean, that's what I've been doing.
Well, let me jump in there. You can do it.
Yeah.
Don't ever do it. Ever. You don't want your money sitting in somebody else's hands that you have no connection to anymore.
Right. Yeah. But, so I've been slacking. That's where what I'm trying to get out of. But the guy told me with my individual 401k for, someone self-employed, if I ever go out of business or whatever, I have 7 months to roll my money somewhere else. I can't keep that account.
Correct. You roll it into an IRA or a Roth if you want. That's actually a fairly simple conversion, I think. I say fairly simple. Nothing really is in this business, but I don't think that's one of the more complicated. But it's a good thing to know that that's how this works. Yeah, you don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah. I just thought it was kind of funny. It makes sense when you think about it, but it's like, what?
Well, yes and no. So why couldn't why couldn't I just leave that account there? Just don't let me contribute to it anymore. What would be wrong with that?
Yeah.
The problem is the government complicates everything. Every step of everything they complicate. I mean, they complicated this whole account from the very beginning, and now they want to complicate it one more time. 7 months. Where'd they come up with that? Why 7? Nobody uses 7 for anything. We use 6. It's a half a year. We might use 12. It's 7. Where do they come up with these numbers? So, and why not just let me leave the account there? I just can't contribute to it anymore. It's a closed account, but the money sits there earning money. That would be simple.
Right.
Now you got me all wound up.
Well, I guess I might as well go now that I got you all wound up.
Wait a minute. Weren't you going to say something about electric vehicle taxes?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I didn't know that Pennsylvania is doing a kilowatt tax, but my question is, how are we differentiating between kilowatts for charging vehicles and kilowatts for everything else? I'm assuming maybe this is only levied at like a charging station.
I think that's probably how they would have, just like they do it at the pump for diesel. I would assume they're going to do it at the charging station. Yeah.
Right.
But in trucking,
where this gets
but hold on, in trucking, we don't get to just pay our tax at the pump and go on with our life. We have to reconcile every quarter. So we're going to have to reconcile electric too. If I buy electric in one state and drive into another, it's just like fuel tax. Now I'm going to have to reconcile. Here again, why do we have this complicated fuel tax system? Why don't we just have a damn mileage tax and be done with it?
Right. The other thing that I don't think people are really understanding with the whole electric thing, for both cars and commercial vehicles, your cost varies wildly depending on the duty cycle, because from what I understand, you're charging at home or at your terminal way cheaper than you are out on the road. So you got to
yeah, that's another good point.
You got to consider the difference there.
Yeah, another good point.
Yeah. So that's
oh, it's the future looks confusing. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got on that.
All right, that's all we need. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Minnesota. David, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
Kevin, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, I sent you an all simple.
Oh, what happened here?
This engine has an oil consumption problem. This is my first oil sample.
Okay. How much oil does it consume?
18,000 miles, 5 gallons.
5 and 18, a little over 3,000 miles a gallon. Do you have your in-frame scheduled yet?
I do.
Okay, good, because it's
As
time.
a matter of fact.
And then here's the thing. Not only have you basically lost the cylinders, they're gone. I mean, the cylinders are polished. They're not going to get much worse than they are now. You are about to lose your bearings.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the...
So the lead is...
that big red 92 there on lead.
Correct.
Normal lead should be under 5. Lead is the outer coating of the bearing. And copper is the inner coating of the bearing. So you will start to see copper start to climb here pretty soon. At 92, you're just about through the lead.
Okay, I got you. Okay. This is my first auto sample. I just wanted to understand it better.
Oh, yeah. So had you called me and I didn't know, what you just told me about it's due for an in-frame, I would actually be really confused. Is there really only 425,000 miles on this engine?
Correct. It's a Cummins recon that we put in April of 19.
Wait a minute. This is a factory recon?
Correct.
Are they doing that in-frame under warranty?
No.
Why not? No warranty on this.
I had 250,000. No.
Oh, man.
2.5 years, 2 years, 250,000 miles warranty.
I can't believe that have you owned this engine from the beginning?
I've owned it since brand new. Every mile that's on it, I put on it.
I'm going to assume you've taken reasonable care of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder what the hell went wrong with this thing. Boy, this is...
Well, it's a red, so...
Yeah, well, you won't get an argument from me about that one. I really, really wish we would have had a whole history of oil samples on this.
Well, I was too damn lazy to do them. I've been listening to you for years, and after the oil consumption started, I was like, I better do an oil sample on this.
This engine basically ate itself, but I don't know why. I mean, it's a factory reman. If this would have been, some random shop that did the in-frame, or if this would have been a glider engine, we had problems with those. A lot of people were rebuilding blocks that they shouldn't have, but the factory doesn't do that. I mean, the factory has really tight standards on, how that's why you pay so much more for a factory reman. But somebody really screwed something up bad here. This engine just literally ate itself.
Okay. What about base?
Now, one of the things... Oh, your base, don't even worry about. I mean, really.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be like kind of saying, I have cancer, but my eyelashes hurt. Should I be worried about it? I'm not really concerned about what happens with your base right now. This engine's just toast. I mean, the one thing when is the in-frame scheduled for?
November 1st, and it's parked.
Okay. Because I was going to say the concern now, with bearings is we could have a catastrophic failure if the bearings get too bad. So we don't want to risk that. So good that going forward, everything's set. I'm sorry you had to deal with this. This is awful to have an engine do this.
So on lead, what would normal levels be?
Under 5. You might see 3 or 4.
Oh, wow. Yes, you told me that.
Yeah,
you
might see 6 or 7 here and there. We get a little bit of extra wear. We get some dirt in the oil. But if we start seeing anything much over 10, we're going to really start paying attention to it. The other thing I've noticed, one of the things that can destroy an engine like this, and this is why we are so big on oil samples, if you look at your oil sample, are you looking at it right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So look to the right from lead, just 4 or 5 places, you'll see silicon, and your number is 10.
Yes.
One of the things that can wipe out an engine over time like this is silicon. And what that is it's dirt. It's sand, really. It's the hard part of dirt. We call it dirt, but it's really the rock hard particles that are in dirt is silicon, and that polishes the liners. So that's when you start getting oil consumption, but it's also creating wear on the bearings. Our limit on silicon is also 10. If I ever see silicon go over 10, we have to figure out why. We're getting dirt in the engine, and dirt is really destructive. I wonder if there has been some sort of a silicon problem all this time. It could be from, some sort of a breach in the air intake system, a tear in the air cleaner, a gasket not sitting right, and no big deal. You'd never know it. The engine will run fine. Your oil will look okay. But over time, you're just polishing all those parts in a bad way. We're not polishing in a good way. We're wearing all the metals down off those parts. So you're right at 10, which that's not bad. That's kind of our limit. But I wonder, this oil only had 18,000 miles on it. How often were you changing?
I was changing 25,000, every 25,000.
Yeah, see, my guess is by the time this goes to 25,000, that silicon might be up around 15 or 16, and that's destructive.
Yes, and those are...
So, That now when,
OEM filters.
when they do the in-frame, they're going to be taking apart almost the entire intake system basically is coming off. I would tell them to look for some sort of a problem so that they don't put it back together with the problem. I would show them the oil sample. I would say, look, there's a really good chance that it was dirt that caused this failure. I have a little bit of high silicon and I don't even have a lot of miles on this oil sample. So I would have them really pay attention to that intake system when they put it back together. I'd hate to do this to another engine.
Well, I'll be sampling. I promise you.
Good. There you go. Hey, we were talking a lot about Dave Ramsey today. You know what he calls this?
Stupid tax?
He does. You're right. Yep. You knew it. Yeah, that's what this is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. We've all done it.
So it was a good idea to park this truck
Absolutely. I would not drive
and
this
not
truck.
run it for another 2 weeks?
I wouldn't run it.
Okay,
I just
perfect.
wouldn't. Nope. I wouldn't take the chance.
Okay, perfect. Hey, one more question on your garden.
Sure.
I never hear you talk about squash. Just wonder what your opinion is on squash.
I don't like squash. That's my only opinion. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I've never met a... Okay.
Yeah, now what
I've never met a squash I didn't like. So.
Oh, then you should grow all kinds of it. Yeah, if you like squash, grow it.
Okay.
It's one of the things that's fairly easy to grow. They do take a lot of space, but they grow pretty easy. You get a big yield from them. I do grow like a bunch of different pumpkins and like what they call decorative squash. You know, all those things you see in the fall with all the warts and they're all different colors. And I grow those just because I like them. You don't even eat them. They're just decorative. This year I didn't get any. I tried an experiment and it didn't work. The year before I tried an experiment and I grew all my squash plants in hay bales, and I had the plants were the healthiest squash plants I've ever seen. I ended up with like 400 and some decorative squash. I was giving them away to everybody. We gave them to the elementary school, and yeah, that was fun. But growing them in hay bales was incredible. We actually grow the plant right in a hay bale.
They get pretty colorful.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I love that look in the fall.
Yes. All right, Kevin, that's all I had.
There you go. That's all I need. We've all done it.
Thank you.
We pay that stupid tax, but I'll tell you what, that is a lesson you won't forget.
I will not, and I'll be sampling.
There you go.
I promise you.
Well, call me
in my next meeting.
That's right. Call me and we'll talk about those samples too. Let's find out what's on Wojtek's mind today. Welcome.
Oh, good morning. So I'd like to pick your brain a little bit as far as buying real estate under your own name versus through a corporation. What is the difference, and do you have any idea if there is any?
You know, I'm only going to be able to answer this question really generally. There may be some specific things in here that I'm not aware of. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in my advice on this one. I'm going to speak really generally that it would certainly affect taxes. You know, we're going to have a corporate tax structure here, so it needs to be an S Corp, not a C Corp. You would want it to be an S Corp because we could create some tax advantages there. You know, the biggest thing that people tend to use corporations for is liability protection. And real estate carries different liability than a lot of other things. So, you know what? I'm just going to stop right here. Honestly, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I really don't. I just got thinking about this, and it kind of shocks me how little I know about this. I'm just too worried there could be things I don't know here that would really matter. So I'd just rather not say.
Okay. So
You know, I
think
might
I've
be.
got a lot of homework to do.
Yeah, I might be saying that, the S corp would create this advantage. Maybe in real estate it wouldn't, though. Real estate is kind of its own animal, and my real estate investing is
Right.
pretty darn simple. I mean, I'm basically buying properties to hold long term and use them as rentals, mostly vacation rentals. I don't want,
Sure.
I don't want, residents. I don't want to deal with, full time rental properties. But I'm in an area where
Right.
this is an absolute vacation destination, and we are really, really short in the summer on places to stay. So that's why I'm using the investing strategy I am, and I'm not doing it in S corp. I'm doing it as an individual. So honestly, I just realized how little I know about that topic, so I better not say anything.
Okay. Well, I was just digesting Kiyosaki's book and trying to come up with creative, semi-surface legal schemes to pay as little taxes as possible.
Yeah, then you're
to
certainly
keep me
not
up
going
at
to.
night.
You're certainly not going to get those from me in real estate then, because I don't know what they are.
No, of course not. Of course not. And I was just speaking hypothetically.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Anyway, so, and yes, but hypothetically speaking, would there be any issues and would it be feasible to do to set up buy some property in the state like, I don't know, like Wyoming that doesn't have an inheritance tax, I believe, because that's why all these billionaires are spending $20 million to build a house they visit once a year in Jackson Hole, so they can get around the inheritance tax and some other taxes for their kids when they, hand them their billions over. Set up, buy some property there, be a resident of such a state, avoid some potential
Yeah,
near future,
there are lots of
but
strategies.
live somewhere else and have a corporation there.
Yeah. So this is an area where I do have some opinions, and they are basically opinions.
Is that a yes?
Yeah, sort of. No, that's an absolute yes. I have no problem finding a state with really good tax laws like Wyoming, South Dakota, and we're not just talking about income tax laws. They have usually reasonable rates on registering vehicles and all kinds of other kind of financial advantages. I have no problem at all finding a state like that, claiming that as my residence. There's no reason. Now, here's where a corporation can get complicated when you try to do this. You do have to be a little bit careful now with the corporation. If you claim Wyoming as your residence and you want to do a Nevada corporation because Nevada has such great corporate laws, you can do it. The problem is you're also required to register with Wyoming as a foreign corporation. So you do have to deal with both Nevada and Wyoming. Now, Wyoming may have really good laws for foreign corporations where it may be worth it. But I've seen people spend all kinds of money to set up a Nevada corporation, and they live in New York State, and they get hammered twice instead.
Oh, good point. Well, because I keep hearing that these rich people don't own anything in their name. Everything's protected through trusts and corporate structures that are as complicated as the tax code. And there's got to be something to it because they're obviously doing it, and it can't be that much more difficult for anybody that owns some real estate as for rentals to have to live in one of them rentals and pay themselves rent through the corporation and not. I mean, I'm just trying to come up with hypotheticals, of course.
Yeah. So
for all those real estate, IRS agents listening.
Yeah. Let me give you my experience with this. You and I think a lot alike. I've had all these same thoughts, from way back when I first got into business and started paying taxes. When you're self-employed, you know how much tax you pay. I've said forever. If I could,
Yeah, I just got my bill, and it's a thing. I mean, that's why I think elections should be moved to April 16th.
I like that. Well, yeah,
then everybody would vote differently.
Well, here's another way. If the fair tax, but that's not going to happen. So if they would let me make one change to the tax law system, just one, we would start to get much better tax laws in this country, and that is that take employers out of the mix. Employers no longer withhold taxes from your check. Every individual has to write a check. Yeah, exactly. You're right. That's exactly why they did it. People don't see it. They don't care about it.
How are we going to? Yeah.
I want everybody
How are we going to bamboozle the idiot public? Yeah.
Right. I want everybody to have to write a check for all of the tax they have to pay every year, all of their Social Security, all of their Medicare, and all of their income tax. If you owe it, write a check and pay it. Better yet, let's make everybody pay it in cash. Then it would really hurt.
You know what pisses me off the most? You know what pisses me off the most about just the tax industry in general? I pay a tax prep company to do my taxes, and they don't work for me. They work, although I pay them, they still work for the government.
You know what?
Because worth it more. It's worth it more to them to protect their ass,
correct,
more than it is to give me sound tax advice. And I was off by literally $1,000 from going from one tax bracket to another.
You know what's worse?
And that was a difference of 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's what I think is the worst part about this whole system. When the reason most people pay somebody to do their tax return is because they don't know how to do it themselves. I'm even in that boat now.
Right, and I do.
I've been doing tax returns for businesses for a couple decades. I don't do my own anymore. They're too complicated for me now. And I don't want to have to try to learn that every year just to do my own return. I don't do taxes anymore. So I pay somebody to do mine. Here's the crazy part. I'm paying them because I don't know how to do it. But the minute I sign it, I am claiming that I know that it's true and correct. How can I know that?
Right.
If I knew that, I wouldn't have to pay them to do it.
Right, but I think in the deal I have, I pay a little bit extra, and there's like audit insurance, and they do everything for me in that case. So there's a little bit of cushion there.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's go back. The government created a system that now costs us more money than it should. That audit insurance.
Well, of course. I mean, those bureaucrats.
That audit insurance.
Bureaucrats are not going to pay for themselves.
Even though it only costs you a little bit of money. Here's the thing. These firms collect that money over and over and over and over and over, and the audit rate is about 1%.
Yeah.
They make a killing on that audit insurance. It's still a good deal for you. I would pay it. Pay a couple bucks, get some audit insurance.
It's cheap insurance. Yeah.
Exactly. It's really cheap insurance. But I shouldn't have to pay for that.
Right. Speaking of insurance, my insurance rate, and I don't know, I hope this is a good rate. I have $1 million general liability, $1 million for the other one, and 200 cargo. And my rate for the year is, I paid in cash just to save some money, was $9,000.
That sounds outstanding to me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a really good rate.
Okay.
What state do you get your insurance through?
The People's Republic of California.
Wow. Well, that's surprising. That's a really good rate then. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been with the same guy that's just in the same town as me and for like 10, 12 years. So
good.
Yeah, so he gives me good rates if he wants to keep. Yeah. So, is there going to be fuel mileage tomorrow?
Let me go check.
Fuel mileage Friday.
Joel is confirmed. John is just missing in action these days. We haven't heard from John again yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But Joel's confirmed for tomorrow.
Okay. You need to put some pressure on the Pittsburgh Power crew to get into the Volvo engine because,
I
guess they don't really like it. I don't know why. A lot of owner operators are in the Volvos.
They really are, and there's a good reason to be. So, yeah, I do think it would be a good business. Bruce and I have had that conversation a couple times.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, my Volvo is not allowing me to do a parked regen. It's got a temporary lockout thing on, and I don't know why. And it hasn't done an active regen in a while, too. And
yeah, I
don't know.
Most of the shops we tend to deal with that I recommend around the country kind of a lot of independent shops do shy away from Volvo, though. It's a different system. It's their software is more proprietary. There are some, Bruce used to say you needed like $25,000 worth of tools on a pallet to work on a Volvo. I think that's a little extreme. It's not quite that bad, but it's kind of like taking on, something new. But I really wish these shops that I work with, Redneck Diesel and some of these others would at least start down that path.
Yeah. Well, maybe if it keeps giving me more issues, I'll just trade it in for an electric and have free fuel. Yeah.
The other idea, if Joel's listening, I don't think he is because he didn't send me a message. The other idea is I should get with Joel. I know he has a couple of preferred shops around the country. Maybe we could do a show with a good Volvo dealer.
Yes. Well, not necessarily Volvo dealer, but independent. Volvo dealers are a scam.
Right. Yeah.
Volvo dealers are a bunch of...
a good shop, a good Volvo shop, or a good technician, or a good service manager, or somebody he knows. Maybe we could do a Volvo show.
Yeah, that'd be much appreciated. All right, that's all I've got.
Well, look at that. That's all I need. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Wisconsin. Brandy, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for taking my call. So I sent you a book, and Tucker had it was on the banned authors list for Amazon.
Wait,
stop. To your attention.
Stop. What do you mean banned authors list? What country are we in? Is this Russia?
Well, I understand how that sounds. I just want to let you know that you have a valuable banned book in your library. Whether you've read it or not, I
haven't read it yet.
Bring it to your attention.
Yeah, I haven't, and I acted surprised about that. I'm fully aware that Amazon is banning authors. Amazon banning authors, the largest bookstore in the world, banning authors. I think we're in Russia.
Yeah.
China, maybe. Unbelievable that this is happening. And it's hardly being talked about.
A whole story on why.
Yeah, it's hardly being talked about. There was I don't know, 5 or 6 months back. I say, I scroll social media a lot. I don't interact much on it anymore. But there was this phase where I was seeing liberals and the Democrats all screaming about, book banning. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? But what they were talking about was elementary schools saying, you can't have this book in an elementary school library. Hell, I agree with that. That's not censorship. That's common sense. We don't have cigarette vending machines in elementary schools either. We don't let kids drink alcohol. There's a lot of things we don't let children do. That's just smart. So saying we don't want some book in an elementary school, to me, that's not banning books. If you as a parent want to go get that book for your kid, go get it. It's available. I don't want it in the library at the school. So the liberals were all up in arms about what they called censorship and book banning, and yet they're really quiet when it's really happening in the real world, and adults can't get access to a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you really got
I just kind of
me
have
wound
to take it all in, and I hear that. Sorry, but I just want you to know you have something valuable.
I know.
That
Yeah.
was
I managed to get it
in
before
your
they banned
possession.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's all I wanted to tell you.
You know, here's the thing. I hate that I keep doing this. I don't really, but it sucks that I have to. And what I mean is I am upending my life and my business over and over and over because I don't agree with companies and what they're doing. I didn't agree what Facebook was doing. We yanked everything off of there. We created our own sites. That was a big expense for us. Huge. Lots of work. It was a disruption. I had to put 6 other projects on the back burner for a year so we could get that all done. But I will not be censored and banned online. I'm just not going to do it. I would have preferred to just stay on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. It was easy. But I'm not going to do it. Now, all of a sudden, I don't have them anymore, but I am on my 7th Kindle. And I know it because every time you get a new one, they always name it that. It automatically gets named that way when you register it. It just says, Kevin's first Kindle, second Kindle. I know that I'm on my 7th, and I was getting ready to buy another one because my battery's just not holding up all that well. I read a lot on my Kindle. But I am seriously considering finding some other electronic reader. I don't even know what's out there anymore because I've been so happy with my Kindle for so long. I don't want to buy shit from Amazon anymore. And that's a huge inconvenience for me.
Is Nook still available?
I don't know. That's what
Barnes and Noble Nook?
I have no idea what's available because I haven't looked in years, and this stuff changes, pretty quickly. But it's on my list today. Because I need a reader because I'm tired of charging my battery twice a day. But I'm going to go do some research, and it's one more step to get me away from Amazon.
Another thing, I don't mind sending you books. I just want to see if you might be interested in it. His name is Roger Kipling. And basically, he writes poetry. It's not your romantic kind of poetry. It's basically poetry that has history in it. When you read it, you are like...
Hold on. Let me stop you there. I really appreciate it, but don't send that one. I won't read it. My book list is so long right now with books that I'm really interested in getting to. I could tell you if you called me, if you send me that book, you call me 2 years from now, I'm going to say, I just haven't got to it yet.
Well, that's okay. It's different kind of reading. I'm not on your Kindle, but in your page-to-page kind of thing, a little bit at a time, and you get a little bit of history from the past. And it transports you. That's what books do, I feel anyway. Especially books like that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I do a lot of reading for pure enjoyment. I just said yesterday I am working my way through 28 Jack Reacher books. I bought them all at one time. Again, on my Kindle because it's so easy. I looked up Jack Reacher. Look, here's his 28 books. Oh, you want to buy them all at once? Sure, I'll take them. And I did. And I'm reading. I bet I'm averaging about 2 or 2.5 hours a day right now of just pure enjoyment reading.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean.
I do the same.
If I sit down and open my Kindle and say, do I want to read the next Jack Reacher book or historic poetry? I can tell you which one's going to win every time.
Right.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, but not that one.
Okay. You're welcome. Yeah, all right. I won't do that then.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Missouri. Dale, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. You guys talking about growing plant that squash out of straw bales?
Yeah.
So, wife and I've told you in the past couple of conversations, I know you don't memorize every damn guy that calls, but sold our house in town, built a brand new house out in the country.
Yeah.
And so we just got a little 6.5 acre spot. So a lot of clay and rock where I live in Missouri. So I'm going to take a Ripper Teats and box blade, rip up the garden spot. It's going to probably be about a half-acre garden.
Okay.
And then
Awesome.
drag all that out and replace soil. And I told her it'll take us about 3 years to get some really good soil going.
Yep.
And anyhow, get the
Actually,
microbes and all that started.
yeah.
But,
Actually, let me tell you, throw some good compost and straw on the soil, and then plant a multi-seed cover crop this winter, if you get it done, or whenever.
uh-huh.
That one thing alone transforms the soil pretty quickly. I've never seen anything change soil so fast
Really?
as that one winter with the cover crop, and then heavy compost in the spring.
Like, what do you put? Clover and what else?
Let me go look, actually. I have a 7 blend. Well, I won't go look specifically. It's got several legumes. Legumes put nitrogen back into the soil, so that's their purpose. It does use...
Okay, like soybeans do. They do the same thing.
Yeah, any legume. There are even legumes that don't produce any kind of a bean or a pea. That they just produce a plant and some vines, and that's what these are. They didn't produce anything.
Well,
they're just some kind of legume that
well,
grows.
if you ever wonder
Go ahead.
if you've ever wondered why he was driving to Wolcott one time, and you look at why is there last year there was soybeans there, this year there's corn there,
Right.
because the soybeans put nitrogen off their roots back in the soil,
Exactly.
and the corn eats it.
Yep. So it's got a
Yeah,
couple.
so you got to rotate your crops.
Yeah, the
This-
7 seed blend has like a couple legumes. It has a couple grasses. It does have some clover. It's actually a blend that was designed for the Pacific Northwest. I get it from a seed company called Johnny's Seed. They do a fall mix and they do a spring mix. Just cover crop. That's all it's for. And I can buy it in
Yeah, that was
big
the guy that
50-pound bags.
Yeah, that seed company you work with, they had to do a major pivot in their operation to stay in business.
Did they really?
Yeah, he used to exclusively sell apple seeds. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was a good one. You had me.
Okay.
No, it's a good
Okay.
company. I get a lot of my gardening stuff from them. But this blend, I was just blown away. You know, the other thing I need to go look up. I don't think I've ever come across this anywhere. But I grew sweet potatoes this year, and where I'm at, even I don't know. Were you listening to the show when we had David Stelzer on from Azure?
I don't know that I got that one.
Okay. And we talked a lot about gardening and soil because that's his whole background. I mean, that's how Azure Standard got started, just on their farm. He grew up on that farm. They started Azure
Oh, the
Standard.
regenerative farming guy?
Yeah. So
Yeah, I listened to that.
yeah, so his farm is not that far away from me, about 30 minutes, maybe 40. So he's in the Columbia River Gorge, but interesting, we're only 40 minutes apart. We have wildly different weather. His end of the gorge,
Right.
the east end of the gorge, he's out there where it starts to get really dry and arid, and there's almost no trees. I'm in what they call the heart of the gorge, and we are just covered in trees. I mean, all evergreens, and we get a lot more rain than he does. Not nearly as much sunshine and heat, though. So when I mentioned to him about...
He's more towards the high valley, the high desert part
well, he's not...
of Oregon.
No, he's not far enough away for me to be that. You got to get even farther east to get into that. He's still in the gorge. He's at sea level.
But he's the transition.
It's the transition, right. He just doesn't get the rain,
Right.
and it's just totally arid. There's a totally different look over there and really different weather.
Wow.
So we were talking about sweet potatoes, and I said, I've tried to grow sweet potatoes before, and I treated them just like every other plant. You know, when I get around to it, I throw the plants in the ground or the seeds, and they grow, and I wait all season, and then I would dig them up, and there would be no sweet potatoes. None. I mean, it's just a plant with roots. And I'd be like, what the hell happened? Well, it turns out sweet potatoes are subtropical. They need like 120 days of heat and sunshine. And we get 90.
Really?
Yeah, we get 90 really nice days of heat and sunshine, but not hot enough most of the time. And I wasn't planting them early enough because I didn't realize it was that sensitive. And he told me, he said, well, where we are, he said, we grow them in hoop houses and it extends our season. And he says it works really well. And I said, I have a whole crop I'm getting ready to dig up and see if I have anything. And I guess next year I'll use hoop houses. I don't know what I did right. I got the most incredible sweet potato crop I have ever seen. I have got monsters in there. They're like the size of a soccer ball. Some of them are so damn big. And I got a bunch of them. I got a lot. Yeah, which was awesome. The other thing, though, as I was digging up the sweet potatoes, totally transformed the soil. My soil where those sweet potatoes were, it almost feels silky soft now. I've never heard that sweet potatoes improve the soil, but something changed in that soil.
Right. But the squash and the straw, did you literally stick one plant per bale, or long ways did you put one?
I did.
A third of the way down. Either can you grow two?
I did 2 per bale. Yeah, you get and some plant.
You kind of spread them apart.
Yeah, and it wasn't just squash that I did that way. I tried tomatoes, I tried peppers, cucumbers did really good. So it seems like those big leaf vine kind of plants, squash, pumpkin, cucumber, they really loved those conditions. I mean, I had just cucumbers everywhere last year. I did like 10 gallons of fermented dill pickles last year. I had so many. But I also tried
a buddy of mine
tomatoes.
Did a deal with potatoes.
Tomatoes did well. Peppers did well. Almost everything I planted in the hay bales did really well.
Well, and are you using hay or straw? Because straw's got virtually no nutritional value to it.
I tried both, and I didn't see a big difference, really. They both worked pretty well.
Because what I'm wondering, with what you're using liquid feed-wise, your maybe fish emulsion and your chicken soup for the soil, that type of stuff, I imagine you're watering them in these bales with that. Right. Because there's no real food in the straw.
Exactly.
So then after you run all that through there, do you till that into your soil as a compost?
Yeah, that's the other beauty. Those hay bales. Yeah, those hay bales by the end of the season are almost fully composted. So all I do is just as I'm pulling the plants out of them, I just kind of just destroy them and spread them across the soil. Yeah.
Okay, I got an idea for your bakers. I don't know if sweet potatoes will work this way, but a buddy of mine's been doing this. His grandfather, he learned it from him. He takes what they call it. You know what a cattle panel is? You grew up in a farming community. Yeah. It's just a fence, piece of fencing.
Yeah.
Take one cattle panel and make a ring out of it. Okay. Put clips in it, and he goes ahead and he starts his potato eyes. And then he gets, he has, he's got a farm. He's got quite a bit of straw. Anyways, he runs a micro irrigation line up through the middle of it, and just ties it off either way, like 3 spokes per every couple feet till he gets to the top. And he runs a water line up there with a sprinkler head that just goes out. It's a cone. It just out and down.
Yeah.
Okay. So he puts about 8 inches of straw in there, and then he puts just little pockets of dirt, and like 3 pockets or 4 pockets of dirt around in there, and he sticks 1 potato eye in there, and then he packs that with dirt, and he just fills that back up with straw, and he gets up about another 8 inches, and he does that again all the way up to the top, and then he's got that micro irrigation thing on a timer, and it waters it.
What a great
And all the potatoes
idea.
grow in this thing, and he grow, and get this, further thinking, he grows the damn thing in the middle of his garden, and when he gets done, he cuts the clips, the thing, he kicks it over and it falls apart. He spreads it out. You ain't digging. You
there's
got
all your
compost,
potatoes.
Your potatoes, you didn't hurt none. And then your compost is spread over your garden.
What a great idea.
Now,
I
ain't
love
that slicker than a pin?
That is slick.
So.
What a great idea.
So I thought I'd pass that along. I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
That is going down in my. I'm getting ready to do my spring garden planning. I'm going to expand a couple things. I'm going to put up some new trellising, and that is absolutely going into the idea book. I love that one.
Yep. Okay, no. Well, but I did want to ask you how many squash. I mean, really, a squash per bale. I got the zucchini and squash that we grew this year. They weren't a vine type. They were more like a bush type, a shrub.
Oh yeah, okay.
They don't take up as much room.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if I know you don't like them, but if you were ever willing to try this, if you take a green zucchini, a yellow squash, and a sweet onion, skillet, little bit of avocado or extra virgin olive oil and some butter, and if you ever would use Cavender's Greek seasoning. Just a little bit of that, not very much. Just a extremely light dusted amount of that. You cut the ends off, boat them, scrape the seeds out to their half moons, and make them in a skillet. All that sugar in there, and it is a lot of sugar. This is almost like a dessert.
Yeah, I
for a side dish.
I almost forgot kind of about the zucchini style squash. When he asked me a question, I thought he was talking about more of the hard, the butternut, the spaghetti, those kind of squash.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing with zucchini
about a wonderful side dish.
Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. The thing about that though is if I planted one zucchini plant, it'd be more zucchini than I can eat. Those things produce like crazy, and I just don't eat that much of it. I do like zucchini stir fried and some stuff like that, but. Yeah, it doesn't take much. You can grow a lot of those pretty quickly.
Well, and here's another thing to do with your zucchini. You got a mandolin?
Yeah.
To slice things? Yeah.
Yep.
So cut your ends off. Don't worry about boating it. Wash them off. Set your mandolin at about maybe an eighth of an inch. Okay. And just run them long ways down there and make slabs out of them.
Oh, yeah.
I think the hipsters call these now zoodles.
Right. Well,
anyways, you can reduce your tomato sauce. You can reduce your sauce, and then you can put Italian herbs on these and put them in a skillet. Reduce this. You can have your chicken seasoned up and have it thrown in the smoker to cook it outside. And anyways, cook all the moisture out of these noodles, and you can use them and build a lasagna.
Yeah.
And man, it is fantastic.
I like that. I've done it. You know what I like better though, and I'm really, really excited because of what I just grew. I do that with sweet potatoes.
Really?
Yeah. You talk about the best lasagna. Forget noodles. I would never make lasagna with traditional noodles again. You make lasagna with sweet potato noodles, same thing. I set my mandolin a little bit thicker, and then I take the biggest sweet potatoes I can find, and I run them long ways so you get nice big slices, and then just build your lasagna like that. It's incredible.
Huh. I'll have to try that because my wife is a huge sweet potato fan.
Oh yeah, you'll get the gold star if you get her some of this lasagna. It just do it exactly like a traditional lasagna. I don't change anything else. Whatever lasagna recipe you like, all you do is put sweet potato planks in there. It's amazing.
Yeah. So do you need to do you need to cook any moisture out of the sweet potatoes, or are they dry enough? Because the zucchini, you have to.
Yeah, sweet potato has very, very little moisture in it. So they go into the pan completely raw.
Oh, wow, that would save a step.
I don't do anything to them. I slice them, put them in there. I don't pre-cook them at all.
Okay, I got another tip for you. I love to experiment with things. And doing the sauce, you know how you reduce your tomato sauce down so it's thicker so you don't have a soup later?
Yeah.
For like lasagna. I got thinking about, flaxseed's really good at soaking things up. So what I did is in 90 ounces of sauce, I threw a tablespoon, measured and scraped, tablespoon of flaxseed in there. And it does give it kind of a pulpier texture.
Okay.
But then my particular taste in sauce, I like a good basil presence.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I did have to add about another half a tablespoon of basil to get my basil flavor back. But that saved me about 45 minutes on the stovetop in reduction time.
So where that tip is going to help me, we just canned about 75 quarts of tomato products. And towards the end, we were getting a little weary, and we probably rushed our last batch. And we opened it up last night, and it's way thinner than I like it. I think we just rushed it. I was tired. I wasn't paying attention. I'll bet I could fix that sauce up on the stove like that. Because what I'm doing now is I just try to remember, 2 hours ahead, and I throw it on the stove and let it simmer itself. But that might be a nice trick.
Well, yeah, and I'm on propane. I don't care if you're electric or propane, whatever you're burning. Man, I would trade you for 45 minutes of my own time in propane. I would gladly trade you 1 tablespoon of flaxseed.
There you go. That's right. Good trade.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
I'm going to try that.
Oh, man.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. I just looked at the clock. I got to run. The Beckett's are standing by to do rolling toe, and they're supposed to be starting right now. Give us about 10 minutes, or just monitor the feed, and they will be back on live shortly. Line up the calls as well. Remember, this is a talk show, and they need people to talk to, so call them. Anything tire-related, alignments, wheel bearings, handling, call them with all your vibration calls. They love vibration calls. They'll tell you that they don't. Trust me, they love vibration calls. They will be right back. I will see you back here tomorrow. I know Joel is confirmed. We haven't heard from John yet. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.